Far too many of you are letting the thing that you're trying to achieve, weight loss, actually ruin your progress. And it's all because of the way that you approach using the scales, the way that they make you second guess yourself, panic, worry that you're doing the wrong things. I'm not losing weight, I've gained a pound, I've lost a pound, you don't know what's going on. Thankfully, once you finish watching this video, it's all going to make sense and you're never going to make those mistakes again. First thing that we need to understand is that the scales measure weight, but they don't necessarily measure body fat. With my clients, I'll never just use scale weight alone when it comes to measuring progress because it just never tells the full picture. If you look at Charmaine here, although weight is dropping, there are weeks that it doesn't drop as much. However, you can see visually that we are seeing the changes within her body. So she is dropping body fat even in weeks where the scales might not show that. Now we're going to talk more about fluctuations as we go on and why they might happen. But again, it's just to be really clear and just be able to say that back to yourself. This is not just measuring body fat. 1 kilogram of body fat is the equivalent of 7,700 calories. That means that to store 1 kilogram of body fat, you would have to consume 7,700 calories. Now, not only would you have to consume those calories, but you would have to consume them above your maintenance calories. So it's a really easy question now that you can ask yourself. The next time that you have overconsume calories, let's say you've gone for a couple of beers the night before, or you went out for a meal, or it's somebody's birthday so you got a takeaway, just sit back and say, did I eat that many calories? So now what we're going to do is understand, okay, well, what are these fluctuations? Now I've touched on one of them and I'm not going to give you a visual representation of that, but simply put, your toileting habits will impact the scales each day. But there's a few more reasons that can happen within our body that you might understand to some extent, but maybe you've never actually realised the impact that it can have on the scale weight. When it comes to fluctuations, water is usually the thing that's going on that's causing it to fluctuate. We have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are absolutely not bad. In fact, they're fantastic. However, for every gram of carbohydrate that you consume, your body is capable of holding on to up to 3 grams of water. The fact that carbohydrates can help us hold on to water shouldn't change any of your choice around food because ultimately the weight will always level out. But again, it's just to try and understand these short-term things. So we have water retention. We obviously have the impact that things like carbohydrates can have. Haven't got any salt to show you. But again, salt, if we have increased salt, so if you have, I don't know, say a McDonald's is a very salty food, I wouldn't recommend you go eating McDonald's, but if you did, more than likely you're going to see scale weight fluctuations because your body holds on to more water when salt consumption is higher. And these aren't bad things, these are things to just understand. And then finally, and this one gets forgotten so often, if you are dieting and you're dieting successfully, and by the way, this is probably a good time to say, I have a 2-week free fat loss guide that will basically guide you through the first 2 weeks of fat loss. So what you get with it, you get a calorie calculator, you input all your details, it'll give you targets to go on, it'll give you advice on how to hit those calories, which is what we're going to come on to, and then I'll keep checking in with you and keep you accountable through them first 2 weeks to make sure you're on track. If you want it, I'll put it in the description below. Literally download it, drop me an email when you've got it. Sometimes it goes to junk mail, which is a bit annoying, and we'll get you started on 2 weeks of fat loss completely free as a little bit of a thank you for subscribing. So make sure you subscribe. But anyway, if you're losing weight successfully, part of the way that you're going to do that is by thinking about your food choices. And a really important thing to think about is food volume. Now I've chopped all of these up because I'm going to have a stir fry with it later on. There is a lot of food there, not many calories, but a lot of food. All of this food weighs something. If you are successful with fat loss, you're going to likely fill up on filling foods. That holds weight. It's another thing that impacts the scales. I've spoken so much about how weight can fluctuate, how it will fluctuate. It's going to change at certain times. Weekends, even if you're on point, are likely to change a little bit because your dieting habits will change. So what we do with my clients is that we use weekly averages. They will weigh themselves first thing in the morning, every morning. And every week we'll take an average from each week. Now you can see from James here, his average is trending down over time, even though you can see certain days where actually it stayed the same. Now if me and James were to use random readings and just step on the scales every now and then, it could very easily be a case where we'd look at 4 days apart, see no changes and think, oh my God, nothing's happening, James isn't making progress. when actually once we started to use these averages, we see that trend continuously dropping over time. It can also help remove that emotional attachment to the scales, because the more you step on it in the morning, you get a different number. You just think, well, it's just data, continue and move on. I can't stress enough the importance of using weekly averages instead of random readings. If you stick to those things, and I just can't stress it, if you stick to those things and you use, I've just said it there, if you use the scales as a data point, something to understand, but you're also using progress photos alongside it, that you're also measuring your training. Download a free training program below, train hard, put yourself first. If you're measuring all those different elements, then all of a sudden the scales will stop taking on the importance that you let them. You'll use them as a tool that can be effective for fat loss because they help us measure certain elements, but they won't be the be all and end all of your week, and they will not be the thing that continues to ruin your progress. So if you find this stuff useful, if you want help with it a bit more often, like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff, and I'll see you on the next video.